Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. The members of the panel today are to my right, Bill Moretsky, and to his left, Carrie Linklater. My name's Brent McIntyre, and I'll be the chair. And we have a panel member observing today, Ian Mahone. Our assessor today is Nathan Kupfer, and our administrative personnel is Jaswinder Kumar. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted to the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decision on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed and with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, can you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Nathan Kupfer.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please stand up. State your full name.
Rocky Newfeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. The first property on the docket is 434 Archibald. And I understand there's a preliminary issue with late filing by both the applicant and the assessor. Is either one of you, Nathan, is that correct?
That's news to me. I filed on August 2nd, I believe.
We have August 1.
It was a holiday. They bumped it forward today. I asked.
Good point. Okay, so that issue has been disposed of. And I understand, Mr. Neufeld, do you have another issue?
Yes, I do. I have a letter, and I don't know if it made its way to your file. No? Okay, well, I had to have a copy. Sorry, I only brought one. So this is a communication from Colliers International's legal counsel to the city assessor. And it is a demand to stop using proprietary information from Colliers. And in this document, there is proprietary information. So I provided this letter to the assessor. I think I only gave it to them on Friday. So what we would ask is that they remove these items that they have no permission to use prior to going forward. And I can tell you what they are. on page 8 of his brief, the third paragraph.
Just let us get there.
Okay, sorry.
So your request is to remove paragraph 3?
Or just the words Colliers International Canada would be fine. I can't speak for anyone else, as well as the column marked Colliers Q1 2021.
And Nathan, have you seen this request?
Yeah, Rocky sent it to me Friday afternoon.
And what are your thoughts on it?
I don't really have many thoughts on it. Obviously, that would be a departmental decision that we make. These cap rates that are released obviously are public information. Obviously, I don't have a legal opinion on it, but my evidence was submitted August 2nd, and I received this letter from Mr. Neufeld just on Friday afternoon. So it's not like there's any changes that could have been made to the brief.
Okay, the panel will recess for 5 minutes. And
Sorry, before you recess, my opinion, it's not likely a board decision, it's an assessor decision. However, if they have said they can't do it, I think the options we have are for you to strike it here or to grant us an adjournment to determine what legal counsel wants us to do, or the city gets an answer from legal counsel.
well, and obviously you haven't got an answer to the city assessor.
No. And there is some far-reaching implications in that I can only speak for Colliers. This is the first time I've been to the Board of Revision, and they were using it.
But this chart was used in the last cycle.
Yes, life has changed since then, and we know what the issues are, and we obviously don't want to debate them here, but they can't use it.
But isn't this available to the public?
It's not available for the public to use in litigation. That's a different story. When somebody brings evidence to a hearing panel, there are far-reaching consequences, including liability issues to Colliers for not doing something about their information being used inappropriately. We do not care to acquiesce.
Is there not a disclaimer on Collier's website?
There is, but it's not here.
Okay, we'll adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
A recess. We're going to resume the hearing. Nathan, are you prepared to remove the words Colliers International Canada from the brief? And the reference in the table?
Like, practically speaking, you want me to go away and redact my brief and submit a new one? How does that work?
I can't hear you. You'll have to get closer to your microphone.
Sorry, would you want me to create a new evidence package, like go out of the meeting and redact information and submit a new one? Is that what's being asked?
No, the question was, are you prepared to remove the reference to Colliers from your brief?
I don't see it as holding any weight for this particular hearing, really. So to move things along, I don't have a problem with that for this hearing.
So you're prepared to remove it?
Yep.
Okay, we're going to proceed with the hearing. Just get to the top. Okay, Nathan, you can read your evidence.
For file number 22166.
Yes.
That is property address 434 Archibald Street, roll number 060513033600. It's a commercial office building with a 2023 assessment of $962,000. Scrolling to page 2 of the brief, you can see that there's no recent sales here, unfortunately. I snagged a couple of photos, one from the Google Street View there, and then a few overheads for pages 2 and 3. Page 4 of my brief shows some general some office rent comparables as well as some warehouse rent comparables. Page 5 of my brief shows the income stream for the office building. As you can see, we've got kind of a jumble of PIDs here, but the way it would break down is our main floor and basement essentially. So C2 is anything above grade, and I believe C6 will be the lower level there. So for the C6 upper level, we have combined $8.78 being applied. That's model derived. And then for the C6 storage mezzanine area, we are modeling a combined $5.86 a foot. Combined total leaseable area is 6,058 square feet for this building. 6% vacancy, 3% expenses, $8 shortfall, and a 6.4% cap rate, driving a value of $603,000. Page 6 of the brief shows the second income stream. This is for storage warehouse. Essentially, there's a second area, second building in the parking lot that's being used for storage warehouse purposes, totaling 2,521 square feet, again being modeled at a rate of $7.97. 4% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, $3.85 shortfall, and a capitalization rate of 5.1% for a total value of $359,000. And combining these two streams together, as you can see on page 7, we get a total estimated market value for 2023 of $962,000. Page 8 is our familiar capitalization.
Nathan, could I ask you to mute your YouTube?
To mute my YouTube.
Because we're getting some feedback.
I don't have YouTube open.
Okay, we're gonna have to take a short recess to get it's probably at our end. Sorry about this.
It's okay. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any other players open.
We'll recess for 5 minutes. We'll reconvene the hearing on this property, and Nathan, you can continue.
Yeah, we'll pick it back off at page 7. So this is the summary page for the income values. Like I was saying, we have an office stream and we also have warehouse space. The combined value for the two for 2023 is modeled at $962,000, which is what we're recommending today. Page 10 of my brief, you can see the income and expense mailer. It was filled out. The property is partially owner occupied. Page 12 of that mailer gives you a better breakdown of that partial owner occupied. So Gateway Construction appears to be the owner and occupier of the main floor area. And then they've parceled out the basement here, it looks like, into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 suites they have on the income and expense mailer. A few of them are vacant and a few of them are occupied at the time it was filled out. And then page 11, page 12, 13 and 14 is just the tail end of the income and expense mailer, as well as the COVID questionnaire that we sent out for this time frame as well. The actuals, like I said, this is an owner-occupied or partially owner-occupied property. So we wouldn't use the main floor rent, of course, as those are the owners. But from what we can see here, it looks like they're renting out 2 basement areas at approximately, that'd be what, 350 by 12 divided by 400, be about 1050 a foot is what I can see here for the Knights of Columbus. And then the Park and Buzz there would be at $12 a foot, if I'm not mistaken. It'd be 12,000 divided by 1,000 square feet. Yeah, I think that's all I want to touch on for this property. So at this time, we are going to recommend the 2023 model value. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rocky, any questions?
Yes, I do. Have you inspected the site?
No.
And did you look at the file as to the notes from the last time it was inspected?
Did you hear the question, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the notes right now.
Well, I asked, did you look at them?
The last thing I saw for an inspection were photos from 2010. I'm just checking the notes now for you.
Okay, so, but the question was, sorry, I'll clarify. Did you look at them before you prepared your brief?
Yeah, I believe so.
Sorry, were we waiting? Did you want to read them or do I carry on?
Oh, he answered your question. He
I
said,
answered your question. I'm
Okay,
going to
so
read off the notes for you now.
oh, sorry, you look deep in concentration. My fault there. Do the notes have anything to say about the warehouse section, about what part of it is heated or finished?
I don't see anything specific to whether the warehouse is heated or not, no.
hey,
In regard to the rents that you use, were these selected by yourself or are these put out by the model?
The value is derived using the model, those rates for the income stream there. The comparables I pulled out and supplied to the brief.
I'm just wondering why you don't have any from St. Boniface.
I would say if we had any good comps from St. Boniface, they would be there.
In your expense analysis, which is set at 3%, was that a model-driven rate?
Yes.
And are you able to provide any backup data on this?
There's nothing in my brief specifically regarding the non-recoverable expenses.
In regard to the capitalization rate, how many office sales happened during the last 2 years? Do you know?
Nope.
I told you that none happened since COVID started. Would you be surprised? Sorry, investment office sales. I clarify there.
I guess it would depend how you define that.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine. I shouldn't have asked that. And the site has a basement. Did you not think it appropriate to put some rents for the basement?
There are rents for the basement.
No, comparables.
No, it's a mixture of both.
In the process of preparing this, at any time, did the assessment department or yourself consider doing a highest and best use analysis on the current use?
No.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Bill?
It's on page 5. You have for the income valuation, income stream 1, shortfall at $8 per square foot. Where is that derived from? What does it, what can be contained in that shortfall?
That would represent the expenses that would be incurred during vacancy, I think would be a good definition for it. And that's why the shortfall amount is higher for the office space than it would be for a warehouse space, because your expenses would be higher for an office space than they would be generally for especially unheated warehouse space.
No. Okay, that's what I'll do then.
So what kinds of items would be in that shortfall though? What does that mean? What does that contain? It's an expense shortfall. So what is it? What is it?
I would say utilities, maintenance, and other expenses that would be incurred for the office property.
Yeah. She got it. She got it.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Nathan, if you go to the mailer, and this is just a comment, page 10 at the top, on the right-hand column, it's showing total leasable area of 82,176 square feet.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they got that number from, because that's also not the total land area for the property.
I mean, it's not even close.
No, it's almost, if they took away one of the numbers, it would be close to the warehouse and the office space combined, which I think equal about 8,500 square feet.
So then it's an error on the mailer.
Yeah, that's why we vet the mailers.
Okay, thank you very much. So that was all my questions. And Rocky, you may proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. First, I'll clear up the 82,000 feet. It's not an error on page 2. The overhead shows that the subject parcel, they also own the lot immediately northeast, the triangle-shaped lot. So the total land area is 82,000.
So they put it in the leasable area.
Well, the owner considers this pretty much a land area, a land issue rather than an improvement issue.
Okay, thank you.
So I mean, I guess I'm just saying it's not an error. It was a knowing opinion. The subject property is a contractor's establishment that was built with a basement. That over time, the basement has had general users of it have been charities because there's no market users for it. So for years, the Knights of Columbus have been in there, and prior to that, they had another local charity who since moved on to another basement space on up the road on Desmiron. And at one point, they had one of their subsidiary offices for Discovery Homes in the basement, but that operation is ceased as well. So the basement is not what we would call investment grade of any sort. It's add-on space, it's accessory space, and in valuation, we would tend to consider it not as your primary source, more like additional income. But that's not how we prepared this. I'm just saying that the theory on it is that way. The questions I asked about the industrial space, and neither of us have given you a very good overhead picture of it. I think the assessors on page 3 is the clearest. There's a building rectangular building on the left side of the property, and to the upper right side, there's another building, and it looks like a garage, and there's some discoloration on the right top border. Now that is an unheated storage shed. So this is the area that the assessor has put as 2,500 square feet of warehouse. There is a small heated, there's a foreman's office in the front of it, heated by a space heater for inclement weather. They store their more valuable items, construction materials inside. The rest of the improvements on the property are lean-tos, and to keep their products dry from while they're using them for construction. Again, it's the same with the lot to the east. It's more storage of outside materials. I've been in it, and it really has no value whatsoever. It's a lean-to shed with a space heater in about, I think the space is about 5 or 6 by 10 square feet, so maybe 50 square feet in total. I don't think that hits the investment market with any sort of value whatsoever. And it's not permanently used through the day. It's when the foreman has to take the materials and provide it to the jobbers. He's there, and he's got a working area. So we're not considering it to be any sort of improvement value at all. The main user is the owner, and that's where any income would be generated. On our page 3, we have the first 16 rents are all from St. Boniface on La Chaudière, Desmiron, Provencher, and Marion. These are all office users, and some are in an industrial area. And you can see that the range of net rents goes from $475 to $1,150, and with the highest being, of course, on Provencher, which is more of a retail flair to it. The most comparable ones are in 845 La Chaudière, which is it's the corner of Lage and Marion on the east side. And it is essentially an office, a working office. So a lot of these users will have some of their products on display in the front office, a little bit of storage space in the back. And there's some testing labs in there. That's an industrial office. It's a perfect match for our comparable. And you can see those rents in La Chaudière range from $475 to $1,251. And the dates are all there. So we ended up looking at a rent of $9 on that space towards the upper end because it has its own dedicated parking area. And then for the basement, we applied $4, and that was done from looking on page 4. Basement rents are difficult to find because, like I said earlier, a basement is an accessory space that in most all statements, it won't even be listed on the gross leasable area. It's additional income, contribution to overhead. So the $4 rate, excuse me, was fair. The vacancy we used was from the Johnson report, and on page 7 is the excerpt from June of 2021. And just so we don't have to worry about this, Mr. Johnson, time and time again, has discussed this with him. He stops collecting his data roughly in January of 2021, and he may put in some late exclusions, and then he processes it, and then he prints it in June of 2021. All this information has occurred well before the reference date. So in the suburbs, this would be considered miscellaneous, 7.5%. And the overall rate was 9.9%. So we were relying on the 7.5%, and someone in my office, I know who, changed it to 7.4% because he thought he was being funny. and he lowered the the vacancy rate to 7.4. So he matched up with the declared income on page 5. So it should be 7.5. In regard to the non-recoverables, let me speak to shortfall. Shortfall was taken from the statements. And the reason it is so much different from the assessors is because this is basically a working office, and they don't spend a lot of money to make it pretty. Not like a downtown office where you would tend to see shortfalls at $10 or $11. So it is the actual. The calculation of non-recoverables. We began our study again, starting page 42. And first of all, the cover page is wrong. As far as the effective date, but page 43 and 44. I prepared this myself. These are managed properties at Colliers, and I'm doing them in numerical order, so I'm only up to 1,080. By the next time I come back, I should have another several dozen as we work our way through. What we're doing here is working through the statements and providing the statement date and the revenue, and then as just arbitrarily cutting it by 5% to account for vacancy, which arguably should be a bit more, and then stating the non-recoverables, providing that percentage. In some cases, some of these provide asset management, and those numbers we've got directly from ownership. Asset management on a large portfolio. What that entails is that not all property management jobs are done by the property manager. In the case of the ones I've quoted here, they have their own department who do part of the property management. So they would hire Colliers, and we would do a limited property management. The asset manager would do the rest of the property management. So the numbers are reasonable, and of course, all asset managers, generally all asset management is not recovered from tenants. So the number we've got, this average is 11.47% of non-recoverables. Not 3%, not 5 and 2, it's 11. Now, when you go through our list, you'll note that there are several that have very high numbers. So in the long run, what we're going to have to do with this study is take those ones and make them outliers, because they happen when there's a very large tenant turnover. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, you just have to look at the second address listed, where 10 Keenly side had 1 year 86% non-recoverables, and then the next year it dropped to 5.64. That was the result of some major tenancy turnover, actually a fire too. But so what you're seeing out of that is, once those outliers come out, you're going to see a range of and then another one, for example, further down, we have 4 years of 200 portage that varies from 0.56% to 33.93%, and that was a turnover, 2 turnovers again. So this work needs some analysis. It was presented as provided, but I think that the mean and the median very, very strongly support our a concept of 5% non-recoverables and 2% structural reserve. That is the true cost of an investment building, and so we believe that is fair. As to the capitalization rate, and this is the most interesting thing this year. Wow, there's a bunch of stuff that we were supposed to delete in here. Okay. Are you removing it? No, I'm just saying that. We'll make it thinner for you. We're not doing that. Page 40. Page 40 is from printout from a program called Sabre, which is a reporting of all sales that went through title's office, Winnipeg Land Title's office. And it's the same database that the assessor has access to. You can see, for example, that the par use code corresponds with what the city uses. So all I did here was I took the date that COVID raised its head until April 1st and asked it for every CMOFF. And this is all that came up. And there is actually one in here that could be an investment property, which is the second one, 379 Broadway, which is a Class D. However, there's history on that property, and I wouldn't put any reliance on it until I've investigated it. Every single other one of these was for a different use, project, or an ownership. And I think we pretty much, Colliers was involved in most all of these. I researched all of these. There are no cap rate sales. So anyone who comes and says, I've got caps, would be hard pressed to tell us where they got them from. Nothing happened in office. Very little happened in retail. Lots of activity in industrial and but mostly on building and multifamily, mostly on land. That's what the market brought us. Now this year, and the Colliers study, which begins on page 25. So this is the actual Q1 2021 cap rate. And I'm bringing it in because it's my evidence. It's not somebody else's evidence. The issue I want to bring forward is page 31. That's the copyright. And the user is required to conduct their own due diligence and verification. I'm qualified to do it. I can present this. Anyone who just brings it to you bears no weight because they have to know how this report was made. And I know the board's heard me talk about this in the past.
Well, and the assessor has removed it from.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about why I can use it. Because your question is going to be what makes you think. And the reason is it was designed for our professionals, but it was also as the major issues on it. And on page 35, as I've said again and again at hearings, is that our difference is that we include cost to close, and this is an advertising feature. And this year, there's been a major change because we're a big firm. We're not stupid. We know there haven't been sales. Page 27 says it all.
Yeah, well, let us just get there.
The graph. This is not new news. This is basically a spread between interest rates and cap rates. This is how we've been defining cap rates in the last few years. When you don't have a sale, you look at the spread, and you follow the spread. This is no different than maybe I sound a little pompous, but here's my history lesson. Until I would say the late 60s, maybe even the 70s, direct capitalization was not something you often saw. Most appraisers used band of investment mortgage equity, which was how much money do I need to make to pay my mortgage and get the return I want. So you set the return you want, you get the mortgage payment, and there's your cap. With stabilization of a lot of things during the 70s and 80s, you saw direct capitalization take off. But like everything in real estate, things go in cycles. And the last 5 years, and especially COVID accentuated it, the concept of direct capitalization is just not reliable because people are buying things for different reasons. Right now, it's the major buy that's happening is the project building. The turnaround building. It's the only way you can make money in real estate to make the returns you want to make. So what we moved to, and because this is now featured prominently in our report, lets you know how we do it. And Winnipeg numbers are on page 28. And the industrial quoted here, 6 to 675, and suburban office, same 6 to 675. And then page 29 are the definitions. This building doesn't fit in those definitions, not at all. This is a workers' building. This is a contractor's establishment. They don't cap this. They don't rate this. That's what the report carries, not this. So there's more commentary. We also have a report on page 32 and 33, which is we've come out with, this only began in 2020, which is the Debt Advisory Service. And the one I published here is showing as being second quarter, but I would ask that you just look at, for example, page 32, the graph. Stop it looking at it past Q1 2021. But again, it's the same thing. What's your spread to your cap rate? That's what all these charts show. And page 34 are the are samples of what the investor looks at. So they look at your building and say, what do you qualify for? Do you have to get traditional financing? Can you get CMHC financing? Can you get better financing? Anything that's preferential financing? And there are the spreads listed. So this is how a cap rate is now set. What we did with this is went back to the Collier's model, which again is looks at how far does this building stray from optimal. And first of all, we looked at page 1. This is just a math calculation showing that the adjusted optimal, we started with 6.75, which is top of the range, because it's outside the range, but that's our starting point. And then we took off the negatives on it. Location, it's an industrial area, low demand, low rents. Access, that's a railway crossing. The site is bound by 2 railway crossings, and one's active, one's decommissioned. So it's difficult to develop. The land use is all industrial. It's a basement. It's older. We came up with 8.5. Now, I should tell you that this is also a work in progress. And on Thursday, we've changed our format because this is my first hearing and I don't have another one for another 2 weeks. So yeah, I got stuck working on some other jobs, but this is where we're going with it. So the message is simple. Direct capitalization is dead. It is not reliable. And we're all going to have to look at the different concepts for now and look at some historical uses. There are still some sales happening out there that transact for their in-place income and they have nowhere else to go that are of interest. But generally, the market has been in turmoil with them screwing around with the interest rates. First, they dropped them to 0. Europe went to negative rates with the central bank. Now we're back up again. So this is what's throwing everything off. You know, we're not supposed to look at interest rates when you do a cap rate. They say, well, it doesn't belong in there, but it does. That's what influences the purchase decision. So an owner says, well, my income only shows 5%, but you know, I got this preferential interest rate in place. That's worth 2 points to me. And that's what it sells for, because we have this variance. And it's so huge today compared to, imagine 10 years ago, we were debating the difference between, 5% or 5.5%. which is a 10% difference. So today, we have some rates. One particular apartment I know of got a mortgage of 1.6, and when they try to remortgage it, they're at 3.75. That's 120% increase. And that all goes to the bottom line decision on the purchase, which we don't see. So that's the danger in looking at in-place rates. You've got to know that mortgage perfectly before you can trust that rate. And you'll either adjust for it if it's preferential or throw it out if you can't adjust. And right now, I think the most accurate thing we can look at is the concept of the spread or the band of investment or a mortgage equity. Thank you. That's my presentation. Oh, yes. No, I did have one other thing to say. On page oh, incidentally, pages, when I told you about vacancy, pages 6 to 13 are the actual vacancies in a chart for you to look at, not hiding any data. Somewhere in here, there is St. Boniface land sales chart. Somewhere.
Well, I'm sure we can find it if you have the document.
No, get on with it. What I said earlier in the highest and best use is my opinion is that we're probably looking at demolition and redevelopment to an industrial use. The land sales would be what you would rely on for this. Thank you.
And what assessed value are you looking for? Because you haven't stated it for the record.
I'm sorry, $392,000.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
Yes, thank you. You stated the highest and best value would be as vacant land to demolish the buildings. Is that correct?
Page 4, sorry, land sales, yes.
So which land sale are you relying on then for your $392,000 value?
Well, where we've got 34,000 square feet, and our sales range from $498 a foot to $1,838 a square foot. But the $1,838 is, I think that went multifamily and Gabourey. Then there's one on Archibald at $13,61 a foot. That it was much higher than the rest. But that's probably, it should be able to achieve a number similar to that. Niagara at the bottom is off the beaten track. Camille Sis is in the St. Boniface Industrial. So that leaves us only with Lage, which is a larger one at 487. And I know that needed an approach, and the other one on Archibald. So the highest and best use, even at $13 a foot on 34,000 feet, you're looking at 430,000 roughly, and less demolition costs. So I think that this is a prospect for redevelopment, and people will be more interested in the land than anything coming off this.
Okay. And you completely removed the value of the warehouse space, even though it's used by the owner and occupant, correct?
Yes, it has no market value. It's an accessory structure like a shed.
Why would an accessory structure or a warehouse have no value? Can you explain that?
Just the type of construction, the remaining economic life, the use for it. If somebody wants an office, what do they need a shed with a little contractor's office for? The uses for it would be very, very few. And so on the market, we don't believe it would attract any interest. I think if somebody had a structure like that, their motivation may simply be, I think I'll demolish it and build my own for the minimal cost. Something that I can use.
What date did you inspect the property?
Last time I was out there was about a year ago. I know the owner well, and I know some of the employees, so mix of personal and work.
Are you able to calculate actual net rents using the rents in place for Knights of Columbus and for Park and Buzz?
For the ones in the place?
Yeah, for the arm's length leases, the Knights of Columbus and the Park and Bus.
We took a stab at it, but there's really only the Knights of Columbus, and they're all gross leases. So that's getting us, $950 gross, and we know the costs are somewhere around $5. That brings us down to $4. So that's very supportive of what we applied.
Why are you not considering Park and Buzz?
Well, Park and Buzz. Okay, so that's $12 gross, and they also have they've got 1,536 square feet, so it's actually a bit less than that, maybe 1,175 gross. I haven't read the lease to see what all is recovered out of there, but that might come in a bit higher.
Okay. And what are the actual expenses per foot for this property?
Sorry, but the next part to your question, and the answer to it is that all of these basement rents are, as you can see, they call them open. So with an open non-term lease, the next issue has to be the motivation. You can leave whenever you want. So that's preferential for the tenant, not good for the owner. And usually there's a premium put on these open leases in order for you to escape. So I felt we didn't know how to adjust that. So we were just going to look and make our appraiser's estimate.
Okay. And the actual expenses as submitted by the owner, what are they per square foot?
Let me see. I've got 23,634 in total. Now he has not reported utilities, and I don't think this thing's separately metered. Well, anyway, that works out 23,000 on 34,000 is roughly 650 a foot.
Sorry, it's 23,634 divided by the total square footage of the building, correct?
34,824. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number of 6,058. Yeah, no, that's a little under $4 a foot. But I see that utilities are missing.
I think it's possible that the owner is paying the utilities and this is semi-gross, given that he didn't list them and he listed all the other expenses.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. If you look at the building, page 2, my page 2, the side of the building, see where the red dot is? I think that's a meter. And that's just 1 meter, gas meter. You see it's towards the bottom. So
Yeah,
I don't think it's separately metered, unless earlier I was talking about how it's the income is a contribution and not a something to rely on. And I'm gonna guess that the operating company pays the utilities, and the holding company therefore has none. The operating company is a separate entity.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
Yes, I just have a question on that storage warehouse, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes.
You've been inside?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the age of it?
It was post 2008 and pre 2016. It's in there.
Okay. And what are the construction materials, or what is it?
It's a wood frame shed. And what they did is they demised off about 50 square feet with 2x4 and put some fiberglass in there and a space heater.
And you're saying they're using it as storage for themselves. And what are they storing?
Well, it's higher value items used in construction. So I think we're trying to imagine they have a lot of different styles of projects. I just imagine I don't know what's high value these days. Wood right now. Compared to the shipment I bought last week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all my questions.
And Bill? Yes, those rent comparables, you have office rent comparables that you have on page 3,
Yes.
and 4. So what is the source for that information?
We either manage them or work for them direct from the ownership.
So they're your own source then, basically.
Yes, they are. So we have their statements and their rent rolls, and some of them are semi-gross. So we've had to do some calculations. For example, 605 Dismuron is a gross, and you can see we put in that calculation.
So if I can just go back to you're saying the warehouse should not be included, is that correctly?
Well, it's inappropriate. It's like taking your garage and including it into your space to list your house for sale. It contributes. You put your foot down on your listing is garage. You don't add in square footage, and that's what I'm saying here. It's the same in the commercial world. A broker cannot walk in there and say, I've got 2,500 square feet of warehouse. He is not allowed to list it that way because we have standards. And it's accessory use, majority unheated, and not intended for full-time use. It's just not rentable. The basement is questionable as to whether it's rented or not, but they do have some history of rent in there, and they do have a separate entrance to it. So we went along in that way, but it goes to standards. So the appraisal institute has standards, MLS agents have standards, ICI agents have standards. And when something is sold, say you're going to see a sale that's been reported somewhere, you'll never see that space included. Funny, I was actually working on a property almost next door, same issue. Guy had built some extra sheds at the back, and I couldn't appraise them, and our agent could not list them. So it just skews off. Let's say it does have some value, but it would skew off your stats if you relied on it. So what is that extra value? $100, $1,000?
So are you saying they're not rentable though?
No, absolutely not rentable.
So if we look at the picture again, can we use the city? It's a little bit clearer on
yeah,
I don't mind.
Yeah.
So there's the office building there to the left, and then we have the buildings over into the east there, correct? Is that the ones?
Yes.
Okay, so if we start from the top on the north there, looks like a structure with a slope.
Yeah,
correct.
I think the last time I met the assessor on site, and it was not in 2010. It was actually, I think it was Merrick came out in 2016 or 2017 when he was with Industrial. So let me, I think what the assessor is referring to is he's calling it base floor 3,000 feet, and this one is 25. I'm going to draw on mine and show you what I believe they're using. And I don't know, is it appropriate to show this to the camera?
I don't think the camera will pick it up. Honestly.
Okay.
But you could describe.
Okay, an L-shaped building that is located northeast of the office building.
Okay,
And what you may note is, of course, is the lack of chimneys.
so those other buildings there, the one with the overhead door and the man door,
Yeah.
and then the one beside it that seems to have an open front to it, those ones are not part of this property?
I am not sure because when the ones when we came down to do a site inspection, the assessor wasn't quite clear himself, because it could be that looking at the top picture, you see that there's the one building that's the furthest north, and then there's a very short structure, and then there's the one beside it with the loading door and the man door. It could be just the two of those. We don't know. I've been in them, and like I said, we're talking about a garage. We can't. You know, if someone wants to say, well, it might be worth a couple $1,000 to somebody, I wouldn't dispute it. But where are you going to get the market data to even prove that?
Mr. Chair, can I ask the assessor a question? Redirect, sure.
So, Mr. Compter, which buildings outside of that office are included in your assessment? Okay, on that picture, can you walk me through which buildings are included?
Yeah, so from my aerial pictometry measurements here, it looks like the open air shed, the one furthest away there, would not be included. It looks like it's only the two with the man doors, the one that's to the north of the building and to the east, but not the one southeast.
Okay, so that's what you consider rentable space then?
Yes, absolutely. There's no reason to just not assign a value to it as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. Rocky, do these so-called storage sheds have concrete floors?
I'm really trying to remember. I've been in several on the site that were gravel, and I can't recall. I think it's possible that the north one might have a slab floor, and I think the other one may have only the aggregate, but it could have a slab. I don't know.
Well, I think certainly you'll agree based on the picture that the open building, it looks like a continuation of the gravel.
Yeah, exactly. That whole pad, like the parking at the front is for the cars is paved, and the back is all gravel, and the open one is gravelled inside. Yes.
Okay, that was my only question. That concludes this property for today, and you will be hearing from us in due course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and sorry for the extra matter today, but
it happens.
Yeah. You'll make you feel better. I'm sure that part can take it. Do you want this for the record? You know that's fine. Okay.
Mr. Chair, our next property is 757 Osborne Street. I haven't received any submission from the applicant, and now they haven't registered either.
Thank you. File number 22740, item number 5, and file number 740. The property address will be moved to the end of the docket. And I believe we should take a short break. Yeah. Yes. So we'll recess for a short break. How do we get Lyle?
Mr. He's on the phone.
Lyle, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. The next property on the docket is 757 Osborne Street. And Lyle will get you sworn in.
Mr. Lyle, please state your full name.
757 Osborne?
Oh, we are.
Sorry,
sorry, 179 McDermott. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Mr. Lyle, please state your full name.
Lyle Albert Rack.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you affirm that?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And Nathan, you can proceed with your presentation.
So that's file number 22410. Property address 179 McDermott Avenue, rule number 13060736100. This is another commercial office building. No recent sales again for this property for us to go off of. Page 3 gives you a good idea, a couple of photos of the building. You can see the number there. It's the one on the left in the photo, not the one on the right with Johnny G's, number 179. Page 4 of my brief is just general office comparables. Again, Exchange District, South Portage, West Alexander, kind of in that surrounding area. It's a pretty good collection. Shows a lot of highs and lows. This property would obviously tend towards the higher end of this rent range. For the reasons I'm about to show you, it's divided up into, what is this here now? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 premise IDs on file here. According to my notes, the building was extensively renovated. This note's from 2013. The building was extensively renovated and reconfigured into a number of smaller 100 to 200 generally square foot spaces with individual tenants and the rents we will get to in a second. So the total leasable area that we have modeled here is 5,330 square feet and a total potential rent of 116,871. For an average rental rate there of $21.93 being applied. There's a 12% model vacancy. Again, it's like higher vacancy percentage due to, I think, the number of PIDs and smaller units. 3% expenses, which is standard model for 2023. And a 6.2% capitalization rate, deriving us a value of $1.506 million. Only one stream on this property. Page 7, again, shows our familiar capitalization rate table. And page, all the way down at page 11, page 12 here, we have the income and expense information. It doesn't look like they filled out our INE mailer, but sent in their own, which is fine. The income and expense mailer indicates that it is partially owner occupied. Gives you a breakdown of the total income and expenses, and then a rent roll after that. That's, yeah, has our rent roll with the tenants that were in there at the time. So at this time, we are recommending our model value of $1,506,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Lyle, do you have any questions of Nathan?
I just have one question. Did you get my rebuttal brief?
No, not yet.
No.
Well, I sent a rebuttal brief to the board and it said it was processed, and I sent Nathan a copy of that rebuttal brief.
I received the rebuttal brief.
Okay, I can put that into the folder where the panel allows. Should I put that in the folder?
Sure. Just give us a second.
It was sent actually about a week ago, last Tuesday, I think.
Okay, it's in the folder.
Do you have it now? The rebuttal. Bill?
Nope.
Um,
Do you want to submit all the rebuttals, Mr. Lyle?
I don't have it.
Um,
I've got it for some reason.
I do, I have it. Yeah, let's look at that.
Second.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, well, wait. Okay, well, we have it.
All right, then, as far as his information goes, I have no questions.
Oh, you have no questions? Carrie, do you have any questions?
So
Not at this time, thank you.
And Bill?
I do not have any questions either.
And I have no questions. Lyle, you can proceed with your evidence.
I'd like to address the rebuttal brief first.
No, I think you have to present your evidence first.
But then when would I get to my rebuttal brief?
Well, after Nathan questions you and the board questions you, then you can
Okay.
introduce the rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll get to my information. Okay, just looking at page 1, obviously you can see a picture of the building. It is a heritage building built in 1903. It had a 16% increase. If you go down to the next page, it'll show the workup from the city using 6.2% as the cap rate. So the department's rent on average is $21.93 per square foot. In 2020, the cap rate was 7.05%. And now in 2023, with the pandemic happening, for some reason it goes down to 6.2%. And actually, Class C office, there are no cap rate studies that exist. If we keep going down, you'll see that for basically a downtown office, the only information they have from Cushman & Wakefield is for a B class at 6.5 to 7. They have nothing on a C. CBRE is the same thing. They've got B at 6.5 to 7, no C. And then finally, there's Colliers, which is basically 6 to 6.75. There is no cap rates for a Class C office. So in the little chart there, you'll see that the average is basically 6.33 to 6.92. I keep going down, you'll see that there's no cap rates for Class C office, but we do know what the cap rates are for an A and a B. Therefore, we can extrapolate from that information, and we have to determine what the cap rate would be for a Class C building. So did a calculation here, and you'll see the difference between A building and a B building. You're taking the average of the low to high is 0.79%. So that's how much they changed from an A building to a B building. So if you take that 0.79%, you'd get perhaps a C would be anywhere from 7.12 to 7.171%. So with the height of pandemic and people working from home, a potential purchaser would have to take that into account. So I'm going to go to a lower cap rate of 7.12%, which is what I'll use in my valuation. If we go farther down, you'll see these are all gross leases. All services are included in the rent. And if you keep going down to the expenses, I'm looking at this property site specific. So I adjusted the total gross rent to $218,400 as if it was fully occupied. I used the phone service recoveries, the general admin recoveries, and I reduced the property management administration from $27,269 down to basically $10,387. That's 5%. So that makes a total difference is basically the potential income now, when you subtract the expenses from the gross income, you're getting a potential of $83,714 dollars. I then adjusted the vacancy from 12% down to 6%. So basically now the property has a potential income at $16 per square foot. I'm using the vacancy at 6%, expenses 3%, the shortfall at 10%, $10. which is the city's parameters, and I'm applying a cap rate of 7.12% to give a total value of $1,029,000. That's my presentation.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Lyle, did you get a chance to walk through the property?
Yes, I've been through that property many times.
Okay. Can you touch on the square footage discrepancy? I noticed that they reported, is it 5145 for this mailer? And then when I look back, they'd reported our square footage, the 5330 for the previous two mailers at least, and I think further going back. So was there a recent renovation or change to the layout that you're aware of?
I'm using exactly what they've supplied as far as the numbers of the units. I don't know if they remeasured them or what happened, but it's basically, I'm using the 5145 from the mailer. But I do understand what you're saying, and I did see that because I've worked in this property numerous times. So yes, there's a different discrepancy there by a couple hundred square feet.
Yeah. And then rather than applying the high end, I guess, of the Class B, you extrapolated the difference between an A and a B and added that difference to a B and used that as your cap rate. Is that what I got from your presentation?
Yes, that's what I tried to determine what a C might be, since there is no actual data for Cs, and the C would actually have to be higher to some degree. So that's what I did. I extrapolated what the difference would be between an A and a B, and I took that amount to determine what a C might be, and then I used the low end of what a C might be to apply to the valuation.
Okay. Which units are owner occupied? Do you know?
It's on the second floor at the front of the building. I just looked to see.
Fast Talker, owner occupied, that one, 2,670 square feet. Is that it?
It could be that amount. I'm not exactly sure. I don't see they have a. I don't see their company name up here, actually.
Yeah, I didn't have time to do a company search on this one, so I was just wondering which ones are owner occupied and which ones weren't, if you knew.
Yeah, it's an office that's right on the front of the building as soon as you walk up the stairs to the right.
No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Brack. On page, I guess it's almost your first page. You show a picture of the building, and under the concept section, it talks about that this has been renovated. Do you know when that renovation took place?
It's got to be over 10 years. I took over the building about 11 years ago, and nothing has really changed in the last 11 years. It's average space. It's the actual hardwood floors were redone that were in there. It's got to be longer than 10 years ago. It's still in the same way I remember it from 11 years ago now.
Okay. And does the building have its original mechanics? All the mechanics?
That I don't know. I'm sure they've done some kind of upgrading, because the original mechanics, I would have to say no, because the original mechanics, I believe it would have operated off the City of Winnipeg steam plant. And that plant has been gone for, I don't know how many years, 30 years, 25, 30 years. So it would have its own mechanical now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? No? I have no questions. I just have one question. Do they have any access to parking?
They don't have any parking themselves, but they subsidize parking, and I don't know where they're subsidizing it, because there's that parkade across the street. It could be there. I'm not sure, but they do subsidize parking within the rent.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. So Lyle, you can proceed. Pardon me?
I could answer that parking question. The parking recovery is included the rent. It's listed at $51.30, but I don't know where it is. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, no, that's fine. So now you can proceed with your rebuttal.
Okay, so we'll start rebuttal. I'll just start page 1. You can see there's a chart in the Assessors Comparables. So the assessor's applying a rental rate of $20.94 to $24.38 per square foot for the subject. And you'll see he's got 19 comparables. And his average for those 19 comparables is $15.22, way below what they're assessing it at. So the overall rate that I've applied is $16 per square foot, which is the actual. So total comparisons are 19, and they're 12 under $14 and 5 over 14. The comparison 1 on Bannatyne is 5,909 square feet at $21, so that's above. That's a total renovated building. I've been in there many times. And then the next comparable is right behind Pantages Theater. So that's comparables 3, 5, 11, 15, 16, and 17. And that is actually, there's a lot of tenants there that are government tenants. So in that building, there's 5 comparisons over $14. And there's 2 in the building at Market Square that are 3 comps for this building are under 14. So the market rents at 136 Market range from $12.50 to $22.50. And then the next you have is comparables 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 14, which is 428 Portage Avenue, which is a superior location. That's the building that the walkway goes to. So it's connected to Portage Place. It's connected to the walkway across there. It's right on Portage Avenue, and you're getting rooms, room 200 is at $13.74. 208 is $11. 601 is $11. The main floor is 14, and the subject property again is 16. So if you go down, and you'll see the pictures that the old bay is connected to the building. Superior location with access to Portage Place, and in fact, you can walk all the way down to Portage, Maine if you go through the walkways. So Comp 6 is 261B Vaughan. It's located on the main floor, and it's one of those. It's on the left there. The eye examinations. So it's a retail right on the main floor. Superior location. The next comp is number 8, which is the tattoo location, 261. And then beside it is the last one, which is a salon. I believe it was called Secret Angel Salon, and now it's Root Salon opening soon. July 1st. That was from July 1st, 2022. And you'll see in the picture, there's pictures of people with haircuts, so that's got to be that location. Comparable 12 and 13 is 65 Rory. I don't think comparable at 16,356 square feet is a comparable to the subject, but that's 3 times the size of the entire building. That's at 1250. There's another one at 5130 square feet at 1250. And that building, I know, has been completely renovated. It added that the elevator feature on the left at the very back of the building. It's got the parking lot. So the assessors ranges, the actual assessors comparables ranging from 550 square feet to 16,000. Total rentable space of the subject's only 5330. 15 spaces ranging from 135 to 1220. Overall rent of $16 per square foot. So I think that the assessors comparables do support the $16 per square foot of the subject, the actuals. And now let's look at the cap rates. So for Class C office building, there are no cap rates. And actually, if you look at the paragraph above, the city does not use actual cap rates. Rather, they apply the model-generated estimate rents, NOIs, to the actual sale prices of properties and then time adjustment to April 1st, 2021. So we have no information from the assessor what sales they use and what was the actual rents that were come up by the computer analysis. So below you'll see what the assessors supplied, the cap rates, and then they further say that the cap rates that they're using is supported by market reports. You'll see the office, the subject property is actually an OFC building. There are no market reports. The assessors provide no evidence for Class C cap rates. So the city is actually using for a B 6.75 to 6.75, so all Bs. Colliers is using 6 to 6.75. PBRE is using 6.5 to 7. Cushman and Wakefield is using 6.5 to 7. So Class C would have to be at least at the end of a Class B at 6.75 to 7%. So the assessors applied a cap rate of 6.2% for a Class C building, which is lower than the city's Class B building of 6.75%. The evidence above indicates the assessor's cap rate is too low for a Class C building. And that's my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Do you know roughly what the average unit size is in this building?
I didn't calculate the average, but you see the sizes in my brief.
You mentioned $16 a foot. Overall rent is $16 a foot. How did you derive that number?
That was in my brief that I just gave the presentation on, and that's using the actual gross rents and taking off the expenses. And the expenses were very reasonable. I mean, there wasn't anything that was outstanding as far as expenses go. The biggest expense was actually the property taxes, but when you look at stuff, maintenance repairs is only $8,800, security $29, snow $29, heat was only $39. I mean, the expenses are quite reasonable.
Okay. You didn't adjust for the owner-occupied suites when you made that calculation, correct? You included all of the available rents, including the owner-occupied ones?
Yes, if you look at my basic brief, you'll see that the total gross rents is fully occupied. They're all listed down there, and I came up with the numbers. And if you look at basically the rents that are used, they're all comparable to what the owner has and to what that they're renting the other spaces out for. So they're at market.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
No questions.
And I have no questions. That concludes this property. And the next one on the docket is 143 Smith. And Nathan, you can proceed with your presentation.
Could I, sorry to interrupt, but did you receive a rebuttal brief for that property?
Just let me check.
Yeah.
Yes, we have it. And we also have
Okay.
it for St. Mary's Road.
Thank you very much.
I did not receive a rebuttal for either of those properties. I don't think. 1 second.
Okay, just give us a second.
I just got the one. Let me double check. Nope, I got them all. I found them. We're good.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed now.
File number 22405, 143 Smith Street. This is roll number 120932555000. It's another commercial office building. No recent sales. Again, our last one shown here in 2006. Page 3 of my brief shows some photos. So this one is, it's the corner building right there that you can see. You can get a better view in the second photo from the Google Street View. Page 4 of my brief shows, again, general office rent comparables for the area, including Legislature, South Portage, River Osborne, the Exchange District, and West Broadway. Page 5 of my brief shows the income workup here. So we do have basement space categorized as C9 here, basement leaseable at $7.69 a foot. And then the other two here, this is, I believe, a 2-story office building. So those are floors 1 and 2. two-story office building. So floors 1 and 2 are two C2 codes there at $12.20 and $13.82 respectively. Total leasable area is 11,699, and the vacancy set at 11%. Again, modeled expenses 3%, and our cap rate at 5.55 derives a value of $1,899,000 for 2023. Page 9 of my brief here. We can start on the income and expense mailer. So it confirms the total leasable area, confirms that these are gross leases that are in place. 2 tenants at the time that it was filled out. And page 11 shows Dental FX on the main floor with a gross lease, and the meeting place was in the basement on a semi-gross lease. And page 13 has our master rent roll, which again just has a little bit more information showing that the 200 level suite there was vacant at the time that it was filled out, but they have expected rents and base rents that are provided for that area. And then our last few pages here are the COVID questionnaire, as well as the income and expense, separate income and expense that was filled out and mailed into us. I don't think there's any new information really contained on that. That's not in the rent roll and the other information though. So at this time, we are recommending our value 2023 of $1,899,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Lyle, any questions?
Yeah, just page 14 is the COVID questions.
Okay, just let us get there. Okay.
So I guess on page 14, I'm just pointing out that Dental FX was provide $29,319 in rent abatement. And that's my only, just to point out that they were, rent was reduced for them. And then if you look at page 15, out of that, they only got $19,546 back. And that's my only thing to point out. No questions.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, any questions?
No questions.
Bill?
No question.
And I have no questions. Thank you. Lyle, you can proceed.
Okay, I'll go to my brief first. Page 1, you'll see that it's a Class B office. I think it's actually between a B and a C for the what it actually looks like. But you'll see on the top there that there's a sign there from Colliers that it's for rent, for lease. You can see what the side of the building looks like. It's an older building, no big windows or anything on it. Sorry. I was on my rebuttal. Okay, so you can see where it is. You can see that it is for lease, and that was June 2021 for lease, second floor. Again, you can see on the next picture, it's for lease again, and that was taken from May 2019 for lease. Excuse me. You can see that there's Cartier Management was trying to lease it. And then you can see the lease signs are still there in October 2018. The management company lease signs again, it was for lease. 2017, you can see it was for sublease. So the second floor has been vacant for some time, for years actually. So you go down to the city valuation, it was a 26% increase during the COVID times, which I think is unreasonable, especially taking in consideration how much vacancy there is. So the second floor has been vacant since around June 2017, for sure all of 2018. The tenant was moving out and that was for sublease. So the cap rate for 2023 is 5.5%. The cap rate for 2020 was 7.2%. So So for some reason during COVID, it goes from 5.5 to 7.2, which seems a little ridiculous. Anyways, so for 2023, there's basically it's $11.45 per square foot, the department rent. And again, the cap rate went from 7.2 to 5.5. So this is an OFS. I'm going to call it an office B for sake of evaluation. And you can see the B range, Cushman Wakefield, CBRE, which we've gone through before. So suburban offices from Cushman is basically B at 6.75, 7.75. For CBRE, it's 7 to 7.5. And Colliers basically has it from 6 to 7.5. And Colliers then puts a comment in what's trending. Office and retail transaction volume remains low, with very few significant transactions occurring throughout 2020. Vacancy for these property types will be what drives cap rates on a case-by-case basis. So the next thing you'll see is basically Q1 2021 cap rates. You're getting an average about from the low end of 6.58 to 7.33%. The average between the high and low is 6.95. And for my purposes, the pandemic was in the lockdown situation, April 1st, 2021. The property's been dealing with extended vacancy on the second floor, and a purchaser would take that into account. So I'm going to apply a cap rate for valuation of 6.75%. So now we're going to the actual information from the INEs. So the basement was rented at 11. The main floor is at 19, and the second floor expected rent from the income expense mailers was $16. So we get a total of $182,479. We've got common area maintenance fees, recoveries of $600, and taxes of $7,857. That's for only one tenant. The others are gross leases. So you take out all the expenses, and you come down to a potential income of $127,250 on 11,699 square feet at $10.88 per square foot. For the potential income of $127,250, 11% vacancy, the $3 and the $7 shortfall, and applying a 6.75% capitalization rate, I'm coming to a value of $1,494,000. And that's my presentation.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Where does the $16 for the second floor come from?
That comes from page. If you go to the second page, it was the same page you had in your brief. The second last page in my brief. Second floor vacant, gross, semi-gross leases, and you'll see room 200 is vacant, and the expected rent they're asking for is $16. Whether they get that or not is another question, but I use the 16 that they're basically expecting.
Sorry, I don't see that. I see for dental effects, they have a rate of $19, and then, oh yeah, vacant expected 16. Yeah, expected rent 5.5, 65.33. I see that. Do you know what the second floor rented for the last time it was being rented?
No, I don't have that. I think it was lower than that, or at that.
Okay. I'm looking at the 2017 mailer, which was, I think it's Mood Finance Technology. Does that sound familiar?
I can't. No, I'm not going to say yet. No, I don't know if that is the correct tenant. I don't have that information in front of me, so I'm not going to say yes or no to that. I don't know.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie?
Mr. Rack, just for clarification, was the second floor actually rented over the last 2 years?
No, the second floor has been vacant for a number of years.
Thank you.
And Bill?
I have no questions.
And I have no questions. So Lyle, you can proceed with your rebuttal. Let us just get to it.
Great. All right. Let me know when you're ready.
Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Proceed.
Okay. So, thank you. So first page, you'll see that there's, we've gone over the building as far as the windows go, size and the condition of the building, what it looks like. There's no parking close to the building, and basically the actual rent that's been applied for valuation is $10.88 per square foot. So let's go to the Assessors Comparables. So the next page you'll see is 5 Donald. The Assessors Comparables are number 5, number 6, number 8, 10, and 11. This is definitely a Class A building, not a Class B. It's a better location right on Donald Street as you go over the bridge. It's a superior quality of building. Obviously, there's parking directly out front because there are some retail tenants and a small restaurant in there. And it actually, if you look to the right, you'll see how it curves underneath. There's actually underground parking for that building. That building is not comparable to the subject whatsoever. I mean, you look at the size of the windows, location, etc. That's not comparable to the subject. So the next building is comparable 2 and 3 of the Assessors. That is also a Class B building. You'll see it's a superior location on Osborne. You can see the size of the windows. It's a superior building, a lot more light coming in there. You got adjacent parking to the building, and that's at $12 and $12.25 per square foot. And if you go down, you'll see a better picture of the front. It's a nice looking building, architecturally designed. And you'll see across the street is the legislative grounds with the fountains. So definitely a better location, which would definitely get more rent. Comparable 4 is 268 Fort. I'm assuming it's 270 Fort, which is the Domo Gas Corporation. There is no 268, but sometimes the numbers the assessment department uses and the actual numbers that they use in the building are different. So I'm assuming it's 270 Fort. It's between Portage and Graham. Portage is a half a block away. And actually, it's right across the street from the back of the concourse where you enter the concourse. So it's definitely a better location. And it would demand a higher rent. And the rent there is $11.36 per square foot. The subject is $10.88 a square foot. So that's not much of a difference for the location and for actually where the building is. The next comparable is 65 Rory. And that is a superior building. It was completely renovated with new elevators at the back. I remember that building being renovated when I was at the department. They've completely redone the inside. They've added the elevators at the back, and it's got lots of parking in the back right beside the building. And that's at $7 a square foot. If you keep going down, you'll see comparable number 9, which is 395 Notre Dame. That's a 1-story building. It's kind of pushing for comparable, and that's at $9.95 a square foot. And it has its own parking lot. Okay, the next building is 255 Sherbrooke. That's a government tenant, which is considered a AAA tenant. So they're going to pay a little higher rent. They're going to sign for, my experience with government leases is basically they'll sign for 10 years with an option for another 10. So they typically don't go. I suspect there would be a gross lease, but then I'm going to take that back, and because it's a single building. Typically, government tenants are all gross leases in high rises. I would say that this building is probably a semi-gross, where the department is only paying utilities. They want to know because they're on a budget. They want to know exactly what they're paying with no surprises. So I'm saying it's probably a semi-gross. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing. So that's at $13.50, and it has its own parking lot. Again, that would definitely demand a higher rent. Next comparison is number 13, which is 183 Kennedy Street, which is a superior building. It's got some parking across the street, and that's at $14.52 per square foot. Then we're going to go down to cap rates. I've already gone over how the city derives cap rates. I won't say that again. You can see the market reports. And basically, the city itself is using a cap rate for this type of building, a B, OFSB, basically from the B is basically from 5.60 to 6.9. Just one sec. Colliers is using 6 to 6.75. Cushman and Wakefield is 6.75 to 7.75. And basically, the assessor's cap rate is 5.55. So it's definitely below what the actual city is saying what it is. So it's, sorry. I think the cap rate is actually not supportive that the assessors applied to the property to what the actual city is using. They're using 6.5 to 6.9 for Class B OFS. So the assessor applied a rate of 11.45. When you're looking at all the comparables to some of the comparables are better location, better quality. And what I'm applying to the subject property isn't that far out at 1088. So I think that does provide evidence that 1088 is market for the building, and the assessor has not supplied any evidence to support his cap rate other than these market reports, and the market reports suggest that his cap rate is too low. And that's the end of my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
You note that the subject property is inferior to the assessor's comparables due to building condition, construction, and lack of parking for some of the comparables. But you don't provide any photos or any evidence of what the interior of the subject actually looks like, or how or why it would be inferior. When was the last time you inspected the property?
I don't have any pictures, but if you look at the exterior of the building and you see the small windows from how old the building is and its design, I mean, you look at the side of the building, the windows are very, very small, where if you're looking at your 5 Donald comparable, it's more window than it is building. Same with the Class B on Osborne, it has parking. The 5 Donald has parking. The Domo building has got superior windows in the front, but none on the side. And obviously Rory has parking behind it, and it has windows all over it. So and it's been renovated. So it is, my comment is basically, I think, applicable. And even the building on Kennedy Street is somewhat nicer, newer, but it does rent for more, but it's in a better location.
Okay, thank you. No other questions.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Bill.
So what is the net operating income that you're proposing?
I'm coming with the potential income of 1088 per square foot. I would have to go back to my brief to answer that other question.
And what does that come out to as a lump sum? Potential.
Just one second, please. So the total potential income I'm using is $127,250 before vacancy, expenses, and shortfall. So the net operating income would be $100,847 after all that.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. And Lyle, just for the record, you had a table there with the previous assessments, and this board is not bound by that.
Which table with previous assessments?
Where you showed, so let me find it again.
Oh, are you saying where it showed the cap rate of for 2020? That's the only information I have.
No, you're showing on your page 5. You're showing the previous assessment for 2020 and 2019.
Yes, that's what I was. Yeah, I was getting at. I was showing that previous assessment for 2019, just to show what the cap rate was.
But as I said, even in my preamble, we're not bound by that.
Okay, that's
So, you know,
fine.
it's okay. That was my only comment. So that concludes this property. And we're down to the last property. 20 St. Mary's Road. And Nathan, you can proceed.
Just give me one moment here.
Nathan, did you hear me?
I did, yeah. I'm just getting everything pulled up here in front of me. Sorry for the delay. So that's file number 22408. Property address 20 St. Mary's Road, roll number 060911000300. This is another commercial office building. We'll be discussing, it is 2 stories, and my recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. Most recent sale, I'm showing is in 2012 for $900,000. Page 3 of my brief has our general office rent comparables again. We're a bit out of downtown now, down St. Mary's, so the comparable rents are going to be quite a bit different. I tried to focus a little bit more on this St. Boniface, Varennes Vista area. So the subject property, similar to the last property we discussed, 2 floors, so basically split in half, one at 2,246 square feet, the other at 2,438 square feet. Total leasable area, 4,684 square feet. 6% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, $8 shortfall, and a 5.8% cap rate derives our value of $1,187,000 for 2023. Page 8 of the brief again has our income and expense mailer, confirming our total leasable area, showing at the time there was only 1 tenant in the building. The other area was vacant. Ardent Financial is the owner/tenant. And then they're working to lease out the secondary area. Below that, again, we have our master rent roll. Again, shows the expected rents of $16 there. And below that, our COVID-19 questionnaire. I think that's all the information I have. And again, we will be recommending that the assessment be confirmed today. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle and Lyle, any questions?
No.
Harry, any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Bill.
So that 1 floor is vacant now then, or is that?
That's correct. Yeah, one vacant area, and then the owner occupies and has Ardent Financial as the main tenant on the this is floor number 2, unit number 1, and the vacant is floor number 1, unit number 2. I'm not sure if they have that right or not.
So your leasable space though includes both of those floors.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
And I have no questions. Lyle, you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, we'll look at my board of revision brief. You can see a picture of the building, 2-story walk-up, and you can see it's gone up 21%. Cap rate is 5.8%. So we got valuation issues, rent, and cap rates. So you'll see the 3 cap rate studies that I've shown before. I would consider this a Class A OFS. So you're getting, again, that's what's trending. Vacancy for these properties will be what drives cap rates on a case-by-case basis. So I'm getting basically the average from low to high is 6.38 to 7. And so basically you got an average from low to high of 6.69%. I'm going to use 6.25%. So next we scroll down, in 2021, the main floor was actually rented out, and the rent was reduced from the previous tenant from $3,453 per month to $3,047 per month. So, excuse me. So behind the pandemic, they did manage to rent it out, but the rent was reduced by $400 a month on that space. So you'll see there's some screen captures of the tenants that were there. Second floor is the actual owner, Ardent. So in order to come up with valuation, I'm going to apply the 2021 rents from fair space to the vacant space on the main floor. So go down and you'll see that. So you got Fair Square is basically paying $15 a month, and being a walk-up, $1 square foot is very reasonable for the actual owner. So you're looking at $70,692 per year. Fair Square is the recoveries for 6 months was basically $9,021. So if we take it for a whole year, those recoveries would be about $18,042. Recoveries for the owner, if it was rented out, would be the same, I'm assuming. So you're getting a total recoveries of $36,084, which I think covers all the recoveries for an entire year based on the actuals for 6 months. So now you're getting, with the rent and the recoveries, you're getting $106,776 total. And everything looks pretty good. Repairs and maintenance are good. All the actual operating costs are pretty low. So I'm happy with all that. So you're getting $13.13 net overall. I'm applying the 6.25% cap rate, which I believe is appropriate. So we're getting a final value of basically $898,000, which is a little bit below what it was the last go round. But with the influences of COVID and the drop in the actual rent on the main floor to get someone in there during these times, and actually it's a hard place to rent, I would think, because of the location. You can't park out front, and the parking on the side there's because of the apartment blocks, you only get 2-hour parking, so it becomes pretty hard to park a car around there. So that's my presentation. I'm looking at the site specific. I'm looking at $898,000. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nathan, any questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie?
No questions, thank you.
Bill? No questions. And I have no questions. So Lyle, you've got rebuttal for this one as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can proceed with the rebuttal.
Okay, so page 1, you'll see the sign for lease out there from Colliers. You'll see there's a little sign there on the street, and the picture below, you'll see the building's located as soon as you come off the bridge. So there is no parking out front that building. You have to go down the side street. And as I said, you can only park for 2 hours. It'll tow you away because there's apartment blocks down there. So parking is an issue around there. So let's go to the Assessors Comparables. So we're looking at comparison 1, 3, 4, 11, 13, 15, and 17. So total of 7. They're all on Provencher Boulevard, 131, which is a superior location. It's far away from the subject property. The main floor is actually retail, office, and a sushi restaurant. Excuse me. So you can see the rents that are there. Second floor, 15, 14, same as the subject. Third floor, 14, same as the subject. And the main floor rents are going to be higher, obviously, because they're retail spaces and a sushi restaurant. So the second floor spaces are pretty comparable to the subject property, and it's a better location. You can see, you look across, at that corner, you've got the new bridge there, which is a beautiful, beautiful scenic panoramic view. You've got right across from the building on the side, you've got the river walk. It's across the street with a park. You can walk all the way down into St. Bonaventure by the hospital. So you got the park down there, the old church. It's beautiful around there. So you can see that Provencher Boulevard at that location is considered one of the nicest commercial areas in the city, in my opinion. You can see one of those places on the main floor is actually a sushi restaurant, and that's going to basically in that location. It's a good location for business, a lot of tourists, and a lot of other businesses in the area. The subject property could never stand to have a sushi restaurant where it is. It would never work. So now we get to the comparable 2 and 12. It's 383 Provencher. I've been in that building, and it's actually, those are all condominiums. It does have a lot of on-site parking, which the subject doesn't have, and that's 1050 to 1437, which is second floor, which is basically like the subject. Comparable 5 on 169 Marion Street, parking on the street, but there's no parking for people going there. But I would say that building is quite similar to the subject property, and on Marion, the location is kind of similar to the subject property. And so basically the overall is 1225 a square foot for main and second. Subject is 1313. So that's quite comparable. Now you get to the next one down here in St. Mary's. Is comparable 6, 14, 18, and 19. That is a comparable property to the subject, but it has parking out front, and with the parking out front, now you can have retail. As you see, there's Magic Skin and Nails, and you got a chartered accountants, which you could never have that on subject property. So you can park in the front there for a long time, and I would say that is a comparable to the subject property, but it's superior to the subject. And it has advantages of front street parking too, so it'll accommodate a lot of parking. You got the main floor at 1375 and 9 1/4, and you've got the second floor at 1150 and 1150, which is lower than the subject property. You've got number 7 on Marion. I didn't put down what that was renting for. It's not really, but we'll go on to now number 8. I think that's not comparable subject property because it's a residential conversion, and it's a law office, and the main and second floor are rented for $12.18, which is lower than subject. I don't think that's a comparable property, being a conversion. Now the next one is at 681 St. Mary's. This one doesn't make any sense. It's $20.73 a square foot, and it's an inferior building to the subject property. And I don't believe this to be a net rent. The rent is way too high to. It is compared to the similar type of superior buildings on the same street, like for example, 1615 St. Mary's, excuse me, that we just looked at. So I don't know what's going on with this. This could be a book rent for an owner-occupied property. I don't know, but there's something wrong going on there. And then the last comparable is number 16 at 942 St. Mary's Road at 1570. Excuse me, throat's going dry. So we go into, again, cap rates. I'm not going to get into that too much. You know, I've already discussed the cities, discussed as far as a Class A office, CBRE, sorry, is 6.5 to 7. Cushman & Wakefield 6.25 to 7. There is none for Colliers. And you'll see that the assessors is 5.8. He's using it as brief, but yet the assessors, when you're looking at it, is that at 6. So it's 2 points below, 0.2 points below what the actual city has in the 20th, 80th percentile. And I believe that basically, long run. So A is 6.6 to 6.90. So it's within that little range, but I believe it's not supported by any evidence that the assessors have supplied. And I think the Cushman & Wakefield, Colliers, and CBRE are better because they use actual sales, so the city doesn't. So my conclusion is the best comparables is Marion, 5 and 10, St. Mary's, 6, 14, 18, and 19, and 942 St. Mary's, number 16, which is basically at 1570. So if you average all those rents out from those comparables, we're getting $12.32 per square foot, which is lower than the subject property. And the subject property is at $13.13 per square foot. So I think those comparables, it's acceptable that the $13.13 per square foot is actually genuine market rent. The city's cap rates are not based on actual sales. The city's, the assessors supplied no evidence for the cap rates applied, and I believe it's too low. And I think the market evidence from the actual sales from the other companies supports the cap rate I'm applying. And that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Carrie?
I have no questions.
No question. And I have no questions. Lyle, that concludes your last property.
Yep.
And you will hear from us in due course.
Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me and present my evidence.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
The board will now recess to deliberate with respect to the remaining items to be heard.
Yes.
Thank you. I will call the meeting back to order. The board has deliberated and will proceed with the remaining items in the absence of the applicants. Thank you. And Nathan, if you want to read in, the property in question is 757 Osborne, and read into the record the details and why ATD supports the assessment. So you can quickly go over the comparables.
Sure. So that's file number 22740. Property address 757 Osborne Street, roll number 1200237800. This is an owner-occupied space. It's used for medical purposes. I believe they're a chiropractor clinic. Property was purchased in 2010 for $280,000 by the current owners. There's very few comparables for what this is. It's essentially it's a house conversion into a small office. So we always have a tough time finding rent comparables for these properties. I did the best I could here. The rents ranging from a low all the way down from $9.50 all the way up to about $19.20. We've got the property modeled at $21.10, 6% vacancy, 3% expenses, and 5.25% cap rate, giving us a value of $420,000 for 2023. Page 6, our familiar cap rate table, and then page 8 and 9, where we would normally have our income and expense mailer. Instead, we've got this Canada Post information showing that the income and expense was not filled out by the owners and not returned to us. And this has been some way for some time. I actually called the owners a few weeks ago when I first started reviewing this docket to try and find out a little bit more about why the property had been appealed in the first place. I spoke to one of the two Dr. Kumanis who own and operate the clinic there. They had mentioned some, I believe there was some construction out in front that may have been hurting their business a bit, making it difficult for customers to access the clinic. Other than that, not too much else to say, and I made a point of mentioning that they need to fill out their income and expense mailers going forward because we hadn't had any in the past, and that was about it. Yeah, we didn't really get to discuss value, didn't have a lot of time, and the owner told me they would give me a call back, and then I unfortunately didn't hear from them. So we are going to recommend the $420,000 for 2023, and that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you withdrawing your request to shift the burden of proof?
No, I guess I'll keep that.
Okay.
Just
Carrie,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, on the chance that you guys do reduce the value, we would want to keep the non-cooperation, the burden of proof, as we received no response to the income and expense mailer.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I have no questions.
Bill?
No question.
And I have no questions. That concludes the hearing this morning. Thank you very much. And this meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah.